Hello, Jocelyn Sia here with Ladies Who Bond. Welcome back to another edition of Ladies Who Bond. Our guest today is a truly multi-talented vocalist. She sings a diverse range of styles from opera to soul and jazz. Her latest single, "In My Dreams," has made its way into people's Bond-inspired music playlists, including mine. Hailing from Ireland, welcome Michelle Daly.
Hi, Jocelyn. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Martini here to toast you with.
I have water because it's the afternoon. Cheers.
Fair enough. It's definitely not the afternoon here. So yeah.
So please tell us all a little bit about yourself and your music career.
Okay. So I've been singing, I suppose, since I was practically born. The neighbours would always be, joking with my parents that they were seeing my singing when they would go on holidays because I was constantly singing in the garden. I then started studying classical singing as a kid, and started doing competitions and festivals and things like that. Along with this, I was always like coming up with my own songs and listening to pop music, R&B, very much a 80s, 90s kid. So, and yeah, it was always just coming up with my own songs. Some I definitely would not want to hear now. I'm sure they were pretty cringy. And then I went to study opera in Manchester and London. But alongside all of this, I was always kind of dabbling in my other singing. And while I was in London, I started doing some gigs with an old college friend of mine, a guitarist, and we started writing songs, formed a band, and released an EP. And then I moved to Berlin, which was to pursue my opera further. And I'd kind of put my own music a little bit to the side for a little while, and but suddenly I kind of got a bit of an urge to write again and get back into it. And I met my most recent co-writer in Berlin, and I suppose the rest is history now. And we've got an album. It's ready to release. Hopefully I'll release it this year as it was released last year, but of course due to COVID it couldn't. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it, kind of in a nutshell.
Wow. That must be tough getting into opera.
Yeah, the opera world, it's not an easy world either. I mean, no, the arts is always, very difficult. It's such a high standard. You can be big fish in a small pond, and then suddenly you're up against people in London or big cities like that. Yeah, it's, with the opera scene, sometimes it's going really well for you, then not so well. But yeah, I've been training for years in it. I'm still working now and again, obviously not right now at the moment, but my main focus is really my own music now. So I'm kind of putting all my energy into that. And of course, if I get up for work, I'm not going to turn it down. But energy and perseverance.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, very competitive as well. So
yeah. I mean, I have some classical training. Just growing up with music all my life. Yeah, so I grew up learning how to play piano, and then in my elementary school I picked up the trumpet, and then after that I switched over to French horn. So I've been playing the French horn pretty much all of my life. So and it's not professional or anything by any means. It's just for pure pleasure. So I have some familiarity with like how difficult it can be in the music industry, to try and make it. Like a lot of times, at least here in LA, we have like the first chair horn player. He's Andrew Vane. He's from Australia. So like a lot of times, like it's kind of that you have people coming from overseas that come and take the positions, and then the people here who are studying to be professional musicians end up going out, I think, and vice versa, and it's just so competitive. So
yeah, you've got to go where the opportunity is, and there's sometimes so few jobs for so many talented people, and it's very hard not to get disheartened by the whole thing. And also that you're perfecting your art. You've got to be so on it. You've got to be so polished. It's not something you can half do. So when you put all that energy and effort into something like classical training in any instrument, voice or whatever, and then to feel like you're not getting work out of it can be very soul destroying. But you can't really think like that because there is no guarantee in this game. No matter how talented you are, there's so many other factors that come into it.
Mhm. But I guess as since you've been able to spend a lot of time working on your own stuff, um, one of your songs, "In My Dreams," has made its way onto my personal Spotify playlist.
Yeah, thanks so much for that.
Yeah, sure. So for those who don't know, I have a Spotify playlist called Martini Special, and it has like rejected Bond songs and Bond covers and um, songs from musicians that I think kind of fill that Bond song, theme. And so let's talk a little bit about "In My Dreams." Like, what inspired you to write this song?
So I actually wrote this back in my London days. So it's actually quite an old song from my repertoire. My repertoire, but it wasn't one of the ones I wrote in Berlin, and I just never got around to recording it. So I'm so excited to finally record it, but back in 2019. Yeah, this song it's kind of was inspired by like a near miss of an affair. So and kind of the imagined or fantasy relationship with a person, and how even after you realize that this relationship, whatever you had or may nearly have had isn't going to happen, that still their presence or the shadow of them still kind of haunts you in your dreams. Or waking life kind of daydreams. So it never really goes away because it's kind of almost like an unfinished business that you didn't have. Whereas actually, if you'd had the relationship with them, it could have been just really average and boring, and they never would have been this fantasy person. So that was kind of inspiration. And then in terms of style, it was I was kind of basing it on like a jazz standard in a way, an old school jazz standard. And I really wanted to mix in a bit of a trip hop kind of style, so like 90s vocal led trip hop style. So that was kind of the inspiration for it. Yeah,
I think that's probably why I was so attracted to the song, was the trip hop style.
interesting.
Yeah. I just finished doing a recording with another friend, and we kind of talk a little bit about like what makes a really good Bond song. And trip hop, I think, was kind of, to me, the essence of like the '90s Bond music for the theme songs. And so I think like that's still, I'm a child of the '90s, and it appeals to me quite a bit. Yeah.
So would that be kind of, was I think the garbage one would
Hmm.
be from the yeah, so that style definitely. And I think with a lot of the reason people are thinking that it was a Bond theme, like drawn similarities to it, it wasn't the intention to be a Bond theme at all.
Mm.
But but I can see how certain harmonies, like dark harmonies, and the chromatic melody line, things like that, are really similar to a Bond theme. The instrumentation, of course, that came about from the finished polish the producer put on it, and as well as like the subject matter, because it has like a mysterious type of figure in the lyrics, which is kind of very similar to a lot of Bond
Yeah.
songs already. But honestly, it was not the plan. And it's funny because people say this about my first single from the album January Skies. They also said, "Oh, it's got it sounds like a Bond tune," and I'm like, it really wasn't. Maybe I was a Bond girl in a former life or something. I don't know. It wasn't the intention, but it's definitely a really nice compliment. So I'm I really, it's really nice to hear that.
I really love the lyrics of In My Dreams. I mean, it really is. It is kind of haunting. Like, it makes me think about my past relationships as well.
Well, it's such a common thing. I think that you have this unfinished business with someone, and that's the more exciting thing to write about or imagine or fantasize about than maybe the actual real relationship you had that was really kind of mundane and day to day and stuff. It's not as interesting to write about. So it's better to write about this kind of mystery figure that, I mean, that we all know doesn't really exist. Nobody is this. It's a creation. It's a manifestation. It's something. And if I don't know if you've seen the video, but once I'd heard the song and kind of heard, it's like, God, this does sound very Bondy, doesn't it? And saying to my friends and the producer and everything, I was just like, God, this does sound. And so that definitely the music video was influenced by that. So I wanted to go for a real femme fatale, Bond narrative with the poisoning. But what you'll notice at the end is that I actually am the guy, and I turn into him because it's totally made up. It's just being a figment of my imagination the whole time. That this perfect guy or perfect partner it doesn't exist. It's just something we create fantasy of.
Yeah, it's fascinating. What was the creative process like for creating that song?
The creative process, so yeah, I was thinking of a jazz standard. I mean, because I wrote it like nearly 10 years ago. It's hard to remember exactly. I think I was living in a shared house in London at the time, and I just came up with the melody. First, the lyrics were kind of, mirroring something that was going on in my life at the time. So it was, yeah, not to go into too much detail about that.
Yeah. Did you change, like, since you wrote it 10 years ago, like, did you change a lot of it between then and then when you recorded it?
In terms of how we used to perform it back in London, yeah, it was definitely a lot more kind of, we had like a swung section in the middle that sounded a bit jazzier, and so it's definitely grown in terms of the final product that you hear now is different, but the melody, the harmonies are more or less the same. The lyrics haven't changed at all, which is, it was exactly the same. To be honest with you, finding those lyrics was one of the easiest things, I think, because it was just something that was happening to me at the time, and it just kind of fell out. And I then kind of built chords around it. At the time, my musicianship, but even though I studied music and everything, I'm not like an instrumentalist as such. So my musicianship was always a little bit sketchy. So I bring it to my guitarist friend, and he helped me kind of arrange it. So it had more structure, and the chords, had names as opposed to just all the random notes I'd chosen together on the piano. It just made more sense of it. And yeah, it's definitely been tidied up since, but the whole kind of, I wanted that trip hop sound, everything. Oh, and actually the introduction melody that you hear played by the horn, that was something I always wanted. And that was so nice to have on the final product. And it was actually the bassist who was playing on that song that we recorded. He's also a horn player.
Oh,
so he did it. Yeah, it was great. 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah.
I know. Sorry. I know they're all amazing musicians playing my album. And so he did a really good job of that. And
it's fascinating. So I've noticed, I mean, I know it was unintentional that your song kind of sounds like a Bond theme song. But I started following you on Instagram, and then, just being nosy, I was just looking to see, who else you were following, and I noticed that you are also following other notable figures within the Bond community. Are you yourself a fan?
I would say those kind of connections came from this song and this release because a lot of people were commenting on videos on the video link I put out and saying, "Oh, it needs to be the next Bond theme song," and then it just kind of went from there with building contacts on it. And I'd say I'm a very much like a Bond fan in a very average way. Like I wouldn't say I'm a Bond buff but I do enjoy a good Bond movie. You can't not enjoy a Bond movie. Well, maybe not all of them, but it's definitely it's just
Yeah. Okay, so who would be your favorite Bond if you have one?
So I grew up, in the 80s, and a lot of the movies I would have seen would have been the Roger Moore movies. And I know he's kind of seen as a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, kind of cheesy Bond, but that was a Bond for me. Like that's when, and he was probably one of my first crushes, but I didn't really know what that was. I was like, oh, why do I have this weird feeling about, this guy? But I did find him quite funny, and also very charming. Um, and then it was funny when I would see like a movie, like a Sean Connery Bond movie come on TV, and I'd say to my dad, "Oh, what are you watching?" He's like, "Oh, this Bond movie." I was like, "That's not Bond." I was like, "Who's he?" I don't know. I couldn't get my head around Sean Connery. He was like, "No, he's not. He's not Bond for me." I think it's just whatever you grew up with, isn't it? It's like the first Bond that you've associated with has been, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it was always Roger Moore. And then I'd say, obviously you've done more modern ones. I would have to say it's Daniel Craig because it's almost like the polar opposite of the Roger Moore of this, wisecracking tongue-in-cheek guy. And this guy is a real human. Like he's with feelings. He falls in love. He actually feels pain properly. He nearly dies. Do you know what I mean? He gets properly injured. Whereas, yeah, I think it's definitely Daniel Craig of the more modern ones.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting to hear, people's opinions about the different Bonds. And I mean, the kind of the trope that your favorite Bond is the Bond you grew up with, that seems to run with a lot of people. I mean, for me, I was born in the 80s, but I grew up with Pierce Brosnan. And so that kind of, yeah. So I think again, the whole harking to the 90s for me, it ends up being like,
So
something,
maybe because I was born in the early 80s, and if you're like a late 80s kid, then maybe that's where Pierce Brosnan goes. I mean, Pierce Brosnan, of course, is a great Bond, and he looks the part, he acts the part, and he's Irish as well, which
yeah.
is an Irish Bond, like what? It's quite mad to think James Bond was from Ireland, but yeah, of course he was great, but I think in terms of the way the characters are being portrayed, for me, those, yeah. But for you, it was Pierce Brosnan. He was James Bond.
Yeah, yeah. But every Bond really, as you explore, the different Bonds, it's like as a fan, you end up learning a little bit about each one, and you kind of take this, each actor and like I like this about this actor, and I like that about that actor, and then when you get to the point of people constantly asking you who is your favorite, it's actually pretty difficult as a big fan because you learn to appreciate all of them.
It's like asking someone what their favorite song is or what their favorite kind of music is. It's like, come on,
Yeah.
you can't always, yeah. But if I
Um,
had to pick, yeah,
yeah. Do you have a favorite movie?
I would say I quite enjoyed. I know it's real controversial, but I remember I was really liking Octopussy, and I know it's in the Bond community scene. It's like a complete joke, but it's just what I remember. And I really remember liking Live and Let Die, although I know it's quite problematic now looking back at it, the way people are portrayed in this film. But yeah, it's something. And then as the newer ones, it's definitely got to be, I did actually enjoy Casino Royale and Skyfall. I did think they were pretty good. And the Pierce Brosnan ones, I don't know why. It just kind of seemed, I saw them, but they didn't really resonate as much with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's totally the opposite now. I've got like these
No,
really
no.
kitsch kind of ones from the, Roger Moore, that, yeah, it's just what I used to, yeah, what I grew up with.
I mean, Octopussy is a great movie. I think it's one of those underrated sort of movies, and I think it's also aged pretty well. Like I feel some movies have aged well and some haven't, and that one is one I think that is still pretty good.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I think you always have to look at films in context of when they were made. And it's, I listen to a lot of film podcasts actually, and they're always talking about, oh, this is so problematic, we look at it now. But it's like, yes, that is true, but the time that it was made in, this was, not saying that it's right, but it's accepted, but to kind of judge it on today's values, it's not, it just kind of takes away a lot of the magic and kind of enjoyment of it. I mean, that's just where do you draw the line, And
Yeah,
the way women are, supposed to be depicted in a lot of the Bond movies, especially from the 60s and 70s, it's not so great. But some of them were quite badass, as well as being quite disposable and quite, being quite a sexist, portrayal. I don't know. It's a tricky one, but I think you've got to always look at it in context.
yeah, absolutely. I actually Octopussy is kind of a great movie in that sense of like women representation because
Because she's the villain, isn't she? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah. But then the whole idea of her, she has a whole like group of ladies, and she runs her, burglary business, and she takes them in under her wing, and she trains them, and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's the kind of posse that we need. That I mean, I'm sure that didn't really exist then, or if it did, it wasn't spoken. Um,
yeah,
so it was kind of in that sense like it was pretty amazing.
mm,
Do you think, having seen the movies through different actors, do you think that the women like have been represented better, like with the Daniel Craig era?
yes, yeah. I do have to say it has definitely got better. I mean, if you look at a character, or like the what's the character from Casino Royale, his love interest again?
Oh, Vesper? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that you know she's double crossing him as well. But is she double crossing?
Hmm.
Yeah, she is, of course. But then, of course, she does sacrifice herself for him. Then, so it's kind of like, okay, she's disposable again. But then, someone like she sees, even though she's got this, personal backstory with Bond, she's still prepared to sacrifice his life for the sake of just completing a mission. Bond is disposable. He's not the star. It's like, well, it's got to be done. As much as personally, I don't want to do it. I just got to do it because it's my job. And I think that's interesting to see that. Um, yeah, it's interesting to see how women. I mean, there's still always like a love interest in a way. I mean, you got to have that in a Bond movie, don't you? But I want to see them fighting back. I always want to see them being badass. I don't want to see them kind of, falling for his charms and not giving as good as they get. But it'd be interesting to see, would there ever be a female Bond, or is that a very 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 controversial?
Well, what do you think? Do you think we should have one, or
I think it would be a totally different film. It would be a totally different movie, but I don't see how it couldn't work as its own independent thing. It may not be the exact same, you know, Bond that we know of. It would be, but I mean, you see that, like you see more and more these female leads, in these kind of roles, like okay, the Claire Danes character, she's an agent in Homeland. You can see that it can work, and it's interesting. People want to watch it. It's not just women who want to watch it; it's guys watch it too. So it's a funny one.
Yeah.
Obviously, that I can imagine diehard purists would totally not be into the idea of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, say, 20 years down the line. And that's actually quite a long time, but yeah, I think we're way off it. But to see a Bond of color is obviously the kind of first, that would be another step as well.
Yeah.
Kind of thing happen.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate within the community. There's some people that are completely against it. There's some people that are all for it. It's been it's an interesting topic to discuss, and the community in general is really positive so that we can have these open discussions. For me, some of it too is kind of you have James Bond, and that is a character, right?
Yeah.
But then you also have 007, and I think this is with like the new movie that's coming out. Like a lot of people are all up in arms about it because part of the storyline is that James Bond is retired, and there is a new 007 who is a female, which is Lashawna Lynch. And so,
Is this the one that didn't come the newest one with the
yeah, the new
one that was delayed?
yeah, the one that's
Oh right,
delayed,
I didn't know. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully I haven't spoiled you too much. I mean, like that's kind of like that.
No, it's fine. But
Oh, okay.
so it hasn't been released in the States then because it's delayed. Oh, you just kind of know the.
Yeah, just watching the trailers. I mean, they like put out the trailers and all this stuff, and like.
Right. So
yeah.
I'm totally late to the party on that then. So it's already been interesting.
Yeah.
007 actually. You see, and I was thinking 20 years down the line.
So then there's like a whole plot line that goes with it that we don't know yet, but they kind of like. I mean, there was a lot of controversy in the news when they're like, oh, it's a female and she's black, and then there was there's been a lot of backlash as well, so then there's kind of that where do you separate that, between like the actual character, because I mean in some ways I also feel that, like, for example, you have the story of like Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins is a woman. Like, I feel if you made Mary Poppins a man, you can now have a new character.
Yeah, yeah. But I suppose, it wouldn't be totally unheard of to have like a nanny, type person who is a man. Like, I mean, you can see it happening, or more likely to happen nowadays. But yeah, I suppose if someone has an idea in their head of what, I mean, it's like if you think about it, like I'm not really a follower of the Doctor Who TV show, but I just know that they've had a female Doctor Who,
right?
And they've managed to make that work. So
I think some of it too is like James Bond is based on a book character created by someone. So then, I also kind of wonder about that, because there is a publication, like the foundation that is responsible for like managing all of the books and all that kind of stuff, and it's like you kind of wonder where, like, between like the publication house and like the film company that owns the rights, it's like um where can they go with that? It's like, because they all have to agree somehow. There has to be some level of consistency, right? Between like the things that get published. Like there's comic books too that come out, and it's like if not, it starts to get a little fuzzy, I think. Yeah.
I mean, I'd go and see it, but it's interesting. You're saying it's kind of already happened. I'm totally ignorant. I didn't even know. But in a way, it's kind of happened because he's retired and he's still James Bond, but there's 007, title has been given to someone else. Interesting.
Yeah. There's been a lot of argument, like there's been a lot of backlash too, and I feel really bad for the actress, Lashawna Lynch. Like she's an actress. She was hired to do the part. She is a human being and doesn't deserve, to be treated that way. Like, because a lot of people have
I
been
mean,
like,
I don't know how anyone would take it personally. Like, oh
yeah,
my God, this is what my party destroys. Like, well, just don't go and see it. It's a movie. But maybe there are some people who look at this almost like a religion to them. The whole Bond experience. It's like don't try. It's sacred. Do not. Yeah, that's obviously horrible. If she's been dealing with that. I mean, but people say all sorts of awful. So I'm sure we'll get some comments on this video. But what does she know? She doesn't
yeah.
know anything.
I think most people in the like the notable community are pretty positive, so and very supportive. Because I think if anything, they just want to see the franchise thrive.
Yeah, and you've got
Yeah,
to move with the times.
yeah,
I mean, you've got to move with the times. That's first and foremost for you.
yeah. If you could change anything, what would you like to change? Like, what would you like to see more of for future movies?
I mean, as much as I like a bit of action and a chase and stuff, I feel like it's gone. I mean, all movies these days, it's just too much of a chase, too much, explosions. And I mean, that's the target market. If you've got certain people who are going to see it, they're looking for the stuff, and that's great. You want all that, but I feel like I want to see more character development, more relationships, more, just kind of, yeah, just more development in that way rather than it just being, yeah. I mean, and I think Skyfall, for me, I felt like there was a really good story there. There was all these, his backstory about where he's from and everything, and that wasn't really ever something you saw in Bond before.
Mm,
This kind of thing that he's this vulnerable person who came from this, seeing more about him as a human being.
yeah,
That, yeah, I think, but that's just my preference. But then there'll be other people who'll be like, no, I want it's an action movie. So yes, it is. Maybe a little bit more humor again. I think would be nice to inject. There's always a little bit of it, but I think
can use a little more. I think.
yeah, just some more kind of witty one-liners, not in a cheesy way. I don't think bringing the Roger Moore thing back in now would. I think it just would be totally. It just wouldn't work. It would just also be very dated. It'll be going down the Austin Powers route. I think if you
Yeah,
that me and I mean and I don't know what the Bond community think of those movies, but I think they're hilarious.
I love them.
We were just talking about the character, was it like random task? His little, just a funny play on words like that. It's just brilliant. And now if I do see Goldfingers, I just can't. I do think of Goldmember. I can't. It's really hard to think. There's some really good parodies, but I suppose it's the highest form of flattery, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you've got a parody made of you, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, say you were invited to write the next Bond theme song. What kind of song would you create?
So this is the thing, because probably if I was asked to make the Bond theme tune, it probably wouldn't. Because I seem to write them by accident. But if I tried, it would probably be a whole other kind of thing. I know. I think I'm very much like a fan of the very traditional kind of like slow build. You know, there it would definitely build into kind of full instrumentation. With an orchestra. I give myself quite a varied range, so I could kind of belt out the high notes in a real diva style. It will also just depend on the subject matter of the like the movie, what it was about. Like I'd definitely take that into account. Draw on those themes to create the different colors and harmonies. So, but I don't think it would be too dissimilar from In My Dreams. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a one-trick pony or
Yeah.
too much of a cliche.
Do you think of all the Bond theme songs, there's something that hasn't been done that you might want to try, or
think I'm pretty like it's funny. I'm quite traditional, I suppose, when it comes to that. Like in terms, something that hasn't been done. I mean, the duet has been done, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't really think of it's. I think it's just a classic kind of thing. I don't know. Ask me again. Maybe I'll get the job, and then
Okay.
with some, some really, experimental thing. I'll suddenly get into electronic music, or no. I don't know. I'm quite a traditionalist, and I think it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think there's just that kind of um, classic ballad is it just really works. I suppose we've had very upbeat ones in a way, like you've had the Live and Let Die, which is very much it gets fast, it gets slow again, and that's be interesting. Yeah, I think I'm pretty traditional though.
Okay. I'd like to see maybe whenever we get to the next Bond, because we'll probably have a new Bond. Like I'd love to revisit and see what you think. If maybe you had like a little bit of the trailer and then like ask you again what kind
I could then.
Yeah.
And then I could just come up with like a little demo or something.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
that would be.
You need something to kind of work with. Yeah, I think I don't know the way things are going. Like they're, with the last theme tune, it's much more kind of you've got like a very successful pop singer who's doing it now, and it's a very specific kind of style, Billie Eilish, and I think if they're going to go down that route, then I probably wouldn't. My kind of take on it would be quite different, in terms of the vocal style. Anyway, I kind of want to hear a full, full diva kind of belting it out. I think that's what it kind of needs, really, for a Bond theme tune. Like Bassie, you can't touch Bassie. She's just like the queen.
Just kind of the gold standard, I guess.
Yeah, you just can't like as much. I mean, there's amazing like Tina Turner and Adele's as well, but you just like in terms of just the delivery and presence, like she acts out the whole song. Like she doesn't. She's a total performer. Like I was just watching some of her singing this the other day. I was going to call it Goldfinger at the Albert Hall, and she just totally like she's performing, telling the whole story with the song. And that for me, I love that style. I think it's very important to perform it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna reach out to you whenever we get to the next movie.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to hear what the.
Yeah. So In My Dreams is your second single, and then you have an album that will soon be released. Could you give us a preview of what to expect?
Yeah, sure. So, I am quite heavily influenced by a lot of retro artists from kind of 50s to 70s. So a lot of the music is quite old school R&B, soul jazz inspired. Themes are kind of like there's a few love songs on there, kind of thing, but it's not. It's more kind of about kind of like destiny, loss of faith, rites of passage. Kind of there's definitely more kind of personal themes as opposed to romantic themes. And what else? So that's going to be released hopefully this year. I was supposed to release it last year, but I had to cancel the launch here and in Berlin, unfortunately, due to COVID. But I hope to plan a launch kind of towards the end of summer, early autumn, depending on how things are going in Berlin, and maybe live stream it as well. So I'm also releasing on vinyl, which is very exciting because that wasn't the original plan, because I did a crowdfunder for this album. So that was to make a CD, and I also have a very nice lyrics book, so a coffee table style book that my very talented artist, Stephanie Mill, is designing for me as well. So that's great fun as well. Just to,
exciting.
Yeah, it's nice to have something creative to kind of do as well at times. And I've hopefully got a couple of singles to release before the full album, and then I'll release some again afterwards, but also going to have some new videos. Yeah, so I really loved making the video, the last video. It was really good fun, just kind of coming up with the concepts, and so I'm excited to make a few more.
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I'm really looking forward to it. It's my baby. It's what I've been working on for the past few years, so it was so disappointing to have to cancel it last year, but sure, listen, it could be worse. There's so many people in so many worse situations than I am, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Once this pandemic starts to calm down and we can be out and free again, what is the first thing you're going to do?
See, I've got a few things I want to do, but okay, the first thing will be just to go to a bar or restaurant with my friends or family and just not, and not have to like wear a mask and worry about, sitting or whatever, that you can just go in and relax. Or just even go to a friend's house or have my friends over for dinner. That's, something I'm just really looking forward to, and not just having to meet them in the freezing cold, which it mainly is has been in Berlin and Dublin over the winter. It's just missing that kind of social contact. That for me, I'm a very social person. That's been very, very hard. I'm lucky that I've been able to come back to my family home here in Dublin. Have that, but you want your own independence and want to be back in my own place.
Yeah.
But also want to perform live. Of course, I want to do a gig.
Yeah.
Go to a gig.
You must miss performing too, right?
Yeah, definitely. That I had big plans, to do a little promo tour of, parts of Germany and UK and Ireland, but of course I've had to put that on hold. But yeah, definitely, and just even rehearsing and making music with people, it's it's hard. I have managed to I managed to record something remotely with people. That was actually a cover version of a 90s trip hop song, which I will. That's another thing that I'm planning to. I just need to get some clearance and rights sorted out before I do that. But yeah, I'll keep you posted about.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit of a surprise. But yeah, these are plans for when this thing is over. Will it ever be totally over though? I think we'll always have to be a bit safe and careful, but just having a little bit more freedom would be great.
That would be nice. I going to concerts and seeing live music is one of the things I miss a lot. Like, I had so many tickets at the beginning of last year that all of them got canceled, and it's like, oh well, that's unfortunate. But just that's just something that doing online just cannot. No, you just can't fill that void.
And I think it's great that there is a platform to live stream as well, and I'm definitely going to take advantage of that alongside doing a gig, because it is useful, but it's just never the same, is it, as being in person? And and just having that crowd there. If you don't have anyone there, it's just very surreal.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd, like performing to empty space, right? Like, yeah.
It's just like doing a rehearsal or something. You've got no feedback. That's all. I suppose it's like I'm watching my dad is a big rugby fan, watching rugby games, and they have this kind of canned crowd sound that's playing, that we hear as the viewers, but actually they don't hear. That's quite, because I was wondering, that would be really weird if they were going around the stadium and they heard this like fake crowd sound, but they play it all and they add it to the soundtrack of the match for viewers to add the atmosphere. It's very strange. It's like canned laughter, but canned kind of cheering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to end this interview with a final question for you. It's similar to Dear Abby, which is like a newspaper advice column for readers asking for practical life advice.
Okay.
But I'm calling it Dear Moneypenny for the Bond community.
Nice.
So when we can go back to parties and things like that, Dear Moneypenny, I am throwing a party, and not all of my guests are Bond fans. I would like to sneak some Bond theme songs into my party playlist. Which songs do you think would be fitting for all my guests?
God, it's so hard. Okay, let me try and narrow it down, give you a bit of variety.
You don't have to give me one. You can give me as many as you want.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm not good with like. So they're just going to be snuck in the playlist, kind of different times of the night. Okay, I like it. Okay, so maybe kind of to warm people up with the kind of Bond things, there's something a bit more modern. So the garbage one, the world is not enough. I think that's a nice one because it's, you could be listening to a garbage album or something, and it's, there's got to be a Bassie in there. I think the one I would have to choose, so tough, but is Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah, because of the little bass drop in the middle, that's always, yeah, that's the kind of winner for me. I actually think this is an underrated one. Is the Sheryl Crow one. I really like this one, and I always did. I never understood how people hated it. Because so she's not the kind of person I would expect to be a Bond.
Yeah.
Thing. I think the chorus part of that is really strong. I really like that.
That's interesting with Sheryl Crow. She was kind of a last minute thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the next time you watch Tomorrow Never Dies, go all the way to the end credits, and you can look this up online. Yeah. Katie Lang wrote a song called Surrender, and that's played at the end credits, and she was originally supposed to sing the theme song. So I think there's a lot of fans who kind of sympathize. I mean, it's a great song too.
And what happened there? The Katie, someone just went, "Oh, we prefer this one."
I think they just wanted. They realized that. I think they just wanted a bigger name.
Katie Lang's a big name.
I know. Yeah, I'm not really.
Maybe she was because this was the 90s and Sheryl Crow was very. It was the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She was very kind of. She was a big star. Well, so was Katie Lang, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe she was just more in the charts or something. I don't know. It's yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I love the Live and Let Die Wings, which is actually kind of I didn't always know that was Paul McCartney. I was just like, oh wow, yeah, because I'm a Beatles fan, but I'm not a massive Wings fan. I have to say, it's controversial. So I was like, that's quite funky. Yeah, I love that. I love how it's just very varied in styles. I have to say, guilty pleasure of mine is the Gladys Knight License to Kill, just for the pure kind of cheese factor. It's like the 80s piano sound, and that would kind of maybe later in the night when everyone's had a few drinks and just wants to kind of, yeah, you can maybe put on some Phil Collins alongside that or something. Or
yeah,
an 80s sing-along. Yeah, I mean, Gladys Knight, what a amazing singer. And it's a good song. I mean, it's totally over the top, but it's great. The Carly Simon, No He Does It Better. That's a great song. I think that would be the last one. That would be that's an end of the night kind of. You're everyone swaying with the drink, kind of like. That's a real people crying into their drink. Yeah, I love that song.
It's a good way to end the night, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think that would probably be my. I'm sure I've missed off some really great ones.
No, that sounds like a great.
It's quite a mix. It's very different kind of. Yeah, there's too many to choose from there.
Yeah, yeah. There's quite a lot. That sounds like a party I'd like to be at.
Okay, cool. Me too.
So, thank you, Michelle, for taking the time to chat with me today. I look forward to your album. I can't wait. I know it's going to be a while, but I'm excited for you.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be kind of early autumn, late summer. I mean, yeah, I've just got to get it out there now. Even
Yeah.
gig or no gig, it's just got to happen. But there will be some singles in the meantime, so a bit of a teaser into it. So 2 have already been released. January Skies, which is actually the album title track.
Okay.
So yeah, the full album's called January Skies, and yeah, if you want to find me, I have a link tree, which I mean, if I give you all my links, you'll probably share them in the.
I'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
on Instagram, I'm at Miss Daly Music. It's michelledalymusic.com. There is I think once you find one of my socials, you'll be able to find it because I have everything linked, and of course on Spotify if you want to listen. Oh, and Bandcamp if you actually want to buy my music.
Okay.
Which people don't tend to do so much anymore. But yeah, I'll be selling my album and merch on there as well. Got some cool ideas for some merch.
Awesome. Okay, yeah. Please send me your Bandcamp and then I'll put it on there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm also selling my old EP Melodrama is on there.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, so it's not in physical form, but yeah, just digital downloads. But
okay.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me and for adding me to your playlist. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for reaching out. Like, it was nice to connect and yeah.
Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your day in sunny California.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Bye.
Bye.
But in my dreams, you're always there. You haunt my soul. You're always there. Oh, give me some peace. Oh, don't you care what you're doing to me, yeah. Oh, in my dreams, you're always there. You haunt my soul. You're always there. Oh, give me some peace. Oh, don't you care what you're doing to me, yeah. What you're doing to me,